Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. These videos are aligned with standards set by the Tennessee Department of Education. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Clark, Director of the Center for Educational Media and Professional Development at MTSU's College of Education. Welcome to this very first session of the School Counselors Collaborative at MTSU, a new initiative offering professional development for school counselors across the state of Tennessee. The School Counselors Collaborative at MTSU is the second K-12 PD initiative originating in MTSU's College of Education and is part of a larger initiative known as the PK-12 Collaborative at MTSU. Our first program was the ELL Collaborative, which we've been offering to educators for 3 years. The School Counselors Collaborative at MTSU will offer more sessions during this academic year, as well as a summer conference, the School Counselors Collaborative Summer Academy. So to better understand what the School Counselors Collaborative is, here are some characteristics of it. First, it is practitioner-driven, with school counselors identifying the topics of sessions based on their needs, as well as letting us know the best dates and times to have the sessions. Also, the SC Collaborative offers opportunities for collaborative learning among Tennessee practitioners who serve as presenters to share their strategies, their materials, programs, and technologies that have been successful in their school counseling work with students in Tennessee schools. Also, it promotes professional support networks across Tennessee so that school counselors can establish individual contacts statewide, which is particularly beneficial for districts with a small staff of school counselors. Also, the collaborative offers multiple sessions throughout the school year to address topics and apply professional learning immediately in the school settings. And all of this is available to school counselors at no charge. We have some partners who are critical to the success of our School Counselor Collaborative. First, we're proud to have the support of the Tennessee Department of Education. And two of our presenters today are from the Tennessee Department of Ed. You will meet them in a few minutes. In recent years, the Tennessee Department of Education had an initiative that called the School Counseling Collaborative, and Lee Bagwell did some great work with counselor coaches. That initiative was later discontinued. And what we're doing here at MTSU with the School Counselors Collaborative is not part of that program. We are pleased, however, to have the participation and encouragement of some of the participants in that earlier initiative in our efforts today to support school counselors throughout Tennessee. Another one of our partners is the Tennessee School Counselor Association, and they were involved in early discussions and have promoted the SC Collaborative in their newsletter. A big thank you goes to Blair Vincent for her support of the collaborative. And finally, Dr. Tiffany Wilson, Assistant Professor in the College of Education here at MTSU, has been working with us. Dr. Wilson is the coordinator of our school counseling program, which is part of MTSU's professional counseling program. Dr. Wilson has been with us since the beginning and was vital in the early planning of the School Counselors Collaborative. Dr. Wilson, will you join us on screen and tell us about yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be here with you today for the inaugural kickoff for the School Counseling Collaborative. I first want to say thank you to Dr. Clark for providing this opportunity for school counselors across Tennessee and the opportunity to partner with you and the Tennessee Department of Education and the Tennessee School Counselor Association. The role of school counselors is so important to the school communities across the state. And my goal and hope for this School Counseling Collaborative is to provide you all with innovative and creative professional development opportunities to provide you support in the work that you do with children across school communities across the state. So to all my fellow school counselors out there, to all the students who are enrolled in school counseling programs, just know that we appreciate your hard work, your dedication, and your leadership, and just the work that you have been called to do as school counselors in helping maximize the potential of students everywhere. And so thank you again for being here, and we look forward to working together in the future.
Dr. Wilson, thank you for your expertise and support of this initiative. And I do want to give a special shout out to Dr. Wilson's students who may be joining us today. I think this will be very helpful to those who are in training to be school counselors. And a couple of other shout outs. I know we've got a student from University of Tennessee in Knoxville from the school counseling program, as well as some students from Lipscomb University. So we love having the counselors in training, school counselors in training. You're welcome to join us on any of these future collaborative sessions. So this morning, we have 2 sessions for you. Our first session will be state level supports for school counselors presented by Ms. Denisha Ward and Ms. Christy Steele, both from the Department of Education, and they will introduce themselves shortly. Our second session will be supporting students during the COVID pandemic, presented by Mr. William Feck, school counselor, Learning Way Elementary School in Bedford County Schools. And he will come on screen in a bit. Throughout each session today, we invite you to join the chat. Let us know who you are. What district are you in? Ask us questions. Suggest topics for future collaborative sessions. Because remember, this is practitioner driven. We want to know the areas that you have needs. During the chat sessions today, I'll monitor the questions and I will share them with our presenters. So now, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters for the first session. First, Ms. Denisha Ward, Tennessee Department of Education.
Good morning, everyone. As Ms. Clark said, I am Denisha Ward. I am from the Tennessee Department of Education. My title is the Coordinator of College and Career Advising. I will tell you more about my background and my role at the department as we get into our presentation, but I look forward to engaging with you during this time and hearing about all the wonderful work that you're doing and engaging with you in the chat.
Thank you, Denisha. We're so happy to have you here today. And so now I would like to introduce Ms. Christy Steele, Tennessee Department of Education.
Thank you so much for that introduction. My role is the Director of Mental Health at the department in the Division of Whole Child. So very excited to be here today for the kickoff of the School Counselors Collaborative at MTSU, and I will do more of an introduction in a few moments.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. So if you'll both join me on screen, and I think we're ready to begin this presentation. So Ms. Denisha Ward and Ms. Christy Steele, I'll go off screen and y'all take it.
So I will get this started. For Denisha and I, we will co-present state level supports for school counselors, really knowing that previously there had been a director of school counselors. And so by the fact that we are splitting those roles and responsibilities, we want to make sure everyone has a clear understanding of how our roles fit together and complement one another, and then what are our core focal points. So before we get started, we always love to ground everything in our strategic plan, which is being the best for all. We will set all students on a pathway to success, focusing in 3 core areas, looking at academics. All Tennessee students will have access to high quality education no matter where they live. Looking at the whole child area, which is really, again, the area that I'm most focused in. Tennessee public schools will be equipped to serve not only the academic needs, but also the non-academic needs of all students. And then looking at the educator piece, Tennessee will set a new path for education professionals to be at the top of the state to become and remain educators. So if you're thinking about Denisha and I, my roles, definitely our work is going to complement in all of these areas. Denisha fits more wholeheartedly into the academic section, and I fit more into the whole child, but definitely our work will complement in all of those areas. Our objectives for today are, again, just to help to understand the roles of the Director of Mental Health and the Coordinator of College and Career Advising, for you guys to know how we are available for support and who to connect with on certain areas, and also to learn about the supports and the resources related to mental health and college and career readiness in general. Then I will tell a little bit more about the focal points related to mental health. Then Denisha will talk about the focal points related to college and career. And then we will leave time at the end for questions. So throughout the presentation, feel free to put questions or thoughts you have in the chat, and then we will reflect on those at the end of our presentation time. So my role, again, is the Director of Mental Health and Division of Whole Child Supports. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so my background actually is a lot in community-based mental health. So working as a school-based therapist through community mental health services, and then also for about 15 years working as a supervisor and mentor for school people working towards their school counselorship, but also a lot of marriage and family therapists, social workers, people going into the school environments to provide complementary services alongside school counselors and alongside school social workers, school psychologists, and really that whole team really helping to wrap around and support families, and also working in intensive in-home services. I have a lot of background in crisis work related to mental health crisis lines, inpatient and residential services, and group home settings. So really kind of bringing that wealth of mental health related background into this role and hoping that that will be helpful and supportive. My core roles, really, and I'm going to talk more about in a few moments, is really looking at trauma-informed schools, really looking at training that is already available and training that can be developed to help support you all in the beautiful work that you're already doing. And then a Citizenship and Civics work group that Denisha and I are both part of. And then just talking a little bit about the importance of teamwork in general, because we all know this work is very fast-paced. So having supports and collaboration, such as this collaborative, is so important for the work that everybody's doing.
All right, good morning, everyone. As I said, my role is the coordinator of college and career advising. So I belong to the CCTE department, the College, Career, and Technical Education department within TDOE. So my background is in school counseling, high school counseling specifically. So I started as an academic counselor, actually, in a community college setting, and then moved to a college and career counselor for a charter school in the Memphis area. And then my last role in Memphis was a traditional school counselor role in a district managed school within Shelby County Schools. My most recent role that I just left from was in the Atlanta area as an associate director of college counseling for an independent school. So my experience kind of runs the gamut in terms of public, private, suburban, urban areas. So some of my roles and responsibilities will include career awareness, exploration, and advising K through 12. So most of my focus will be on that high school piece, that 9 through 12 piece, and thinking about that post-secondary transition. Also, some of that transition from elementary to middle and middle to high. However, we're in the area of trying to hopefully find someone who will do that K through 8 piece. That is has a little bit more expertise in that area, whereas mine is in that 9 through 12 transitioning to post-secondary. Part of what I'll do in conjunction with Christy and Whole Child will be counselor professional development trainings and providing resources in terms of that college and career readiness piece and advising. And then also, if you already get the College and Career Advising newsletter, that has kind of switched over to me. So that comes out weekly on Tuesdays, and we'll have a link to our newsletters at the end of our presentation. But those are some of the roles and responsibilities, in addition to the civics and citizenship work that we're doing, as well as some other collaborations that I am a part of with TSAC, THEC, and then also TBR, just ensuring that there is kind of a seamless alignment across students moving from 9 through 12 into whatever their post-secondary pathway may be.
So shifting back over to talk a little bit more about the focus related to mental health. Again, really wanting to highlight trauma-informed schools. We know there's a lot of great work already being done in this area. So hopefully in my role, really looking at, where do we already have trauma-informed schools? What supports are needed? Where might we start cohorts like we've had in the past? We've done some collaborative cohorts related to trauma-informed schools with some of the VSB work, and then really providing space for that collaboration ongoing as schools are really working on action plans and things to become more trauma-informed. So really wanting to hear what is needed in that area and how I can be of support of that. And I wanted to highlight the 6 pillars of trauma-informed schools. So allowing flexibility with predictable structures, building supportive relationships, creating a safe space, empowering student voice and choice, teach and support regulation, and use discipline to teach, not to punish. Again, knowing that a lot of great work is already being done there, but hoping that I can continue to be a champion for that work and see where we need to grow and add in additional professional development opportunities or train the trainer models or things like that. So really just looking to you all as a guiding post of where there are needs. I wanted to definitely take the time today to highlight some of the ongoing trainings that we do have. So you're going to notice on the next 4 slides at the bottom, Janet Watkins' name is going to be listed on all of these. Janet, probably a lot of you know Janet because Janet's been doing a training for a while for the department and it's phenomenal. I always hear great things about all the wonderful work she's doing. So she is our AWARE project coordinator. And so wanted to highlight a couple of the trainings that she has developed, but also seeing how we might partner in the future if you have training needs or trainings that she's ongoing doing herself. So the Building Strong Brains and the Adverse Childhood Experiences training, really looking at taking that a step further and taking that into trauma-informed practices within the school environment. So really building on that ACEs work that's already been done. A lot of you may have already participated in youth mental health first aid, but just knowing that if that was something you were interested in, you could connect with Janet or myself and we could see about getting connected in for those opportunities. Again, really looking at the importance of being able to identify mental health needs and respond to those in a timely fashion in the school environment, and also when to pull in the community-based supports that are available to help with that. The Prepare training, I know in July, there was a whole round of trainings that Janet and school safety mentors completed, looking at making sure that teams were already in place in case there were to be a tragic event, really looking at postvention, who those players are in schools and what can be done for crisis debriefing and all of that. So just knowing, if you haven't participated in those trainings, that those do exist and are available. And also looking at comprehensive mental health support. So again, the focus of this training is really, why do we need to have comprehensive mental health supports, how those can be embedded through all of the different tiers, and really pulling in all of the different disciplines in a school environment to be those supports to students on different levels. Another thing I really wanted to highlight was the Citizenship and Civics piece. Denisha and I are both on a monthly work group related to that, really looking at the social and personal competencies. It's kind of my area of expertise, hopefully. And then Denisha's role, really looking at that college career readiness piece and future civics engagement. So we would love any ideas you guys have, resources, needs that you're seeing in this area, whether that's reaching out to the chat and letting us know those things or those needs today, or whether that's following up and reaching out to us by email after the presentation. That's always available. We really want to help students be life and workforce ready. We really want to develop strong personal characteristics and financial literacy, and have a solid understanding of citizenship and civics to help prepare students to make lifelong contributions to society. So just knowing that's a focal point of the work that we're going to be doing hand in hand, and would love feedback in those areas from you on the ground doing the work every day. Again, wanting to highlight teamwork. And I know sometimes that can be a really simple concept, but I think it's one of the most important things we do is really coming together to collaborate, such as the collaborative that's being done today. Really helping to grow ourselves from each other's knowledge and see where strengths and needs are. Really hopeful in my role that I will be able to be a thought partner related to mental wellness, those connections into the community, but also supports in the school. And again, listening to the needs of those doing the work, the people that are in the schools every day. You guys are the experts on what you're doing. And Denisha and I just want to be able to complement that beautiful work that's already being done and provide supports that fit into our different realms. Also brainstorming ways for collaboration, support, and teamwork. And again, connecting to that professional development opportunities and resources. So here's my contact information. I believe we share our contact information again at the end. So just knowing that we are here and available for you. And we're really crafting these roles out since there's 2 of us as opposed to the model that we had in the past. But our main focus is just wanting to be available and supportive and thought partners on the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. So again, my role is the college and career advising piece of what we as school counselors do. And so I'll just go into a little bit more about what my role will entail and what supports will be provided from CCTE as well as myself. So as I said, a big part of my role actually is the K through 12 career awareness, exploration, and advising. So we think of kind of that K through 5 space as more career awareness, exploration in the middle school space, and then of course advising, getting to that 9 through 12 high school space before students get ready to transition to post-secondary. So part of what I will be doing in my role is providing professional development on career assessment tools. So I'm sure, as most of you know, unless you're a counselor in training, all LEAs are required to administer their students, 7th or 8th graders, a career assessment. And so part of what I've been doing since I've come into the department is vetting career assessment tools. So whether a district or a school wants to use Cooter or Navient or Major Clarity, those are some of the things that I look at. And also provide guidance on how you might be able to integrate that into your curriculum. And again, as Christy said, like be a thought partner in terms of how you can integrate career awareness and exploration into programming that you're doing in your school counseling comprehensive programs. Additionally, as I said, supporting districts and schools and implementing career exploration strategies and programming, and then also providing professional development on college and career advising strategies. So in 9 through 12, of course, we're focusing on some of those milestones like submitting a college application, submitting a FAFSA, and then of course in Tennessee, one of our biggest things is completing a Tennessee Promise application. So we really want to make sure that we kind of have some good strategies around making sure that students get those milestones done and making sure that we provide those supports to be able to help students get through those processes. So one of the things that I did want to point out now that is available is collegefortn.org. So it has been updated to provide actually a more comprehensive set of supports for students and counselors as well, especially in the time that we're in now with COVID and understanding that some of our schools are still virtual as well as hybrid. So we want to ensure that, while you may be able to provide supports to your students one-on-one, you want to make sure that there are supports out there that you can point your students to as well. So one of the first things is the Senior Milestones Toolkit. So if you're a high school counselor and you're working with seniors, of course, making sure that students get their Tennessee Promise application in. And I do want to plug that there's an extension to December 1st. If your students have not completed it, they still have some time to do so. And so on collegefortn.org, there are some videos, some instructional videos on how to create a TSAC account and actually move through the Tennessee Promise application, which is really, pretty short and pretty simple, but there are some instructional videos to help students move through that. And then with college applications, there is a college application toolkit. And in that, I think one of the greatest things that I love about the toolkit is that for just about most of our public Tennessee institutions and some private ones, they've recorded instructional videos on how to walk through each portion of their application, which I think is very helpful, especially I know being in a high school setting, it's, a student may want to sit down with you and walk through that application while you've got somebody else pulling you to do something else, right? So maybe you can use these videos, help that student sit down, watch those videos and move through that application. So I think this is a good tool that can help students understand the different parts of that college application. So for most of our Tennessee institutions, you can find instructional videos on how to complete that application. And then FAFSA submission, of course, we know in the high school setting, October 1, the FAFSA open. So there is an update to the FAFSA Frenzy Toolkit. So there are supports and information about, doing your own FAFSA night. I believe there's some information about doing virtual FAFSA nights as well, if you have not done so already. And some information about, if you have students who kind of have those nuances in terms of that FAFSA, students without parents who have parents who do not have social security numbers, or if they get into the verification process, some of those different things that may come up, like if you're dealing with divorced parents or a student who lives with their grandmother, those are the types of things that we may need that you can get some information on within the FAFSA Frenzy Toolkit. So I would definitely recommend if you're in the throes of the college admissions process at your schools, collegefortn.org, I think has some great resources that can help you as you're helping your students in that process. So again, as I mentioned, the College and Career Advising newsletter is something that we put out every Tuesday. Of course, there are always updates from the department as a whole, and there will be important reminders about different grant opportunities that may come up. We just recently scored CTE career exploration grants and STEM startup grants. So that was included in that newsletter. Different resources. So I've recently put in, of course, about this collaborative meeting as well in our newsletter. And then also ASCA, our American School Counselor Association, is doing some webinars as well related to November's Career Development Month. So I put those in there so that we can kind of know the different supports that are going on around not only our state, but nationally that we can engage in. And then, of course, when we start doing our trainings as well, you'll see those within our newsletter as well highlighted and places where you can register for those events. So trainings have not started with my role or within CCTE as of yet. One of the first things that we want to do, Christy and I want to do, is a needs assessment. So we really, we don't want to start doing trainings about things that we think are important. We're not, in the schools anymore. You are. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of your school, your own professional development needs, and thinking about what kinds of support do you want from the state. So we don't want to just go out there and just start getting into doing trainings. We want to hear from you. Just like they've done with this collaborative, we want to make sure that it is definitely practitioner driven and making sure that we're delivering to you what you need. So this is my contact information, my email and phone number. And we'll also make sure that we put that in the chat or discussion boards at some point so that you can have that. But if you just need a thought partner or anything, we are definitely here to listen, help to support you. I just recently had a conversation with someone who was doing a virtual career fair. And so that's something that we want to definitely make sure that we're supporting you in what you're doing in your schools. So these are links to both of our newsletters, and you'll be able to find these in the chat. So the College and Career Advising newsletter comes out, as I said, weekly every Tuesday, and then the Whole Child newsletter is monthly.
Wow, this is a lot of great stuff. We are participants, viewers, please add questions to the chat if you have any questions. I'd like to ask, if you would you expand on the idea of regional roundtables and tell us, what does that look like? Where will it be happening? How will it be happening? What will you be discussing?
So regionally, so we'll focus on our 8 core regions. So stretching from our greater Memphis area on into the Cumberland areas. So we'll be going across the state here. And so I'm thinking about and knowing that there are differences in each context. So Memphis does not look like Nashville. Nashville does not look like Knoxville. There are so many different nuances across our state that we want to ensure that we are meeting you where you are in your context and hearing from our different areas. So we want to start this in the spring of 2021. Of course, at this time, we would love to say we would do in person, but we are just unsure about that at this time. I'm sure you all are watching the news, so things are just changing daily with COVID. But some of the things that we want to talk about, of course, college and career readiness, of course, in a general sense. But again, that's where that needs assessment comes in, and thinking about what types of supports do you need in terms of supporting your students in the college and career advising setting. And then in the K through 8 setting, what types of supports would you want or do you need to hear from us or others as well? We're open to bringing in other people who have more expertise. As I said, K through 8 is not a space that I have ever been in, but if we've got people across the state who are doing that work, we want to make sure that they're being heard from as well. And then, Christy, if you want to address kind of the whole child part of that too.
Definitely. I think we really want to hear what you guys really enjoyed from the regional roundtables in the past. and really build on what worked well. And then if there's something that you guys didn't enjoy, we want to make sure we're not bringing that back. So it's really going to be, and also making sure that we're picking times of the year that make the most sense for the most people to be able to participate. And again, linking to different people in the department for different specialty areas where you guys have interest. So really it's very, very much going to be driven by what you guys are identifying as needs and what individuals are reaching to us about. And then, if somebody's reaching out to us and we're hearing the same thing popping up, we're going to ask, is that a subject matter that you guys would like to bring to those regional roundtables? So we're just excited to bring those supports back. So watch for more to come on that and watching the newsletters for that, because we're definitely going to be asking for feedback on times and what makes the most sense for you all.
How do you want schools to use career inventories? Will these fold into Ready Graduate reporting sent out to the State Department of Education?
So no, the career assessments will not be a part of Ready Graduate. So obviously, of course, Ready Graduate is for our high school students. So career assessments are to be given to middle school students. So really, in terms of what we want at the department, it is about you all administering those assessments. Now, would we want you to build that into some sort of spiral that into curriculum? Absolutely. We don't want, obviously, just assessments to be administered and then that's it. We do want school counselors or teachers or if you have advisors in your schools to ensure that students are able to engage with their results and kind of understand about their skills and their interests and abilities and how that might translate into a career, or how it may translate into high school coursework as well. So that might be, you may do a career fair after you've administered your career assessment, or you may do a fair, like a high school fair. So, to engage students with the different offerings in terms of our EPSOs, our early post-secondary opportunities. So, maybe you've got a table for CTE and a table for AP courses and IB courses. So, we want you to engage students in those results in whatever way it works possible for you in your context, but it does not have any bearing on Ready Graduate.
All right. We had Sean came on and wanted to kind of extend Kevin's question, and his comment and question was, with Kevin's question, perhaps a crosswalk to ASCA and TNDOE's model and standards. Could you respond to that?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is, our standards have not been updated for a while. And so we know that ASCA is on the 4th edition of the national model. So that's something that we want to do, as well as our college and career milestones, which right now are starting from grades 5 through 12. So that's something that we want to ensure that is happening, kind of a crosswalk between those two standards that we have, as well as the ASCA national model. So that's something that we do want to make sure that happens, but it's at this time, we want to make sure that each LEA is, of course, doing and administering the career assessments.
Okay, thanks. We have another question. You might have addressed this, I'm not sure, but from Cameron. And he wants to know, how do we find out about when and where the regional roundtables are held?
So you'll get that information from our newsletters. So both of them, the Whole Child and then the College and Career Advising newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for them, please do so. We also have an email listserv. I'm not sure, both of us are new to TDOE and they've had this email listserv for quite a while. So we don't know how updated it is. But we will also send it out through that email format too.
Okay. I think these are really going to be great. I wanted to ask Christy. Christy, do you have any nuggets of wisdom from the whole child perspective during these times of COVID? For example, I personally know of a situation where a few students were quarantined yesterday, and so they've had to quickly make adjustments, move into virtual, and just from the student perspective, whole child perspective, these times of day-to-day uncertainties about how we're going to learn, where we're going to learn, and what's happening. Could you address that?
Yeah, definitely. And I would go a step further. I would say the student perspective, the parent perspective, the teacher perspective, everybody who works in a school building, the principals. I know, the stress and the pressures of, one day being virtual, the next day being in school, things changing back and forth, hearing about schools having to do what they would consider restarting their school year several times because you normally don't stop and start the way we have this year. And I would say, we were talking about this earlier, providing supports to one another, just having open, honest conversations and being okay with saying we don't know the answer. I feel like a lot of times we try to fill the space with guarantees that we may not have the answers for. I've been doing a lot of self-care trainings, really looking at administrators, how to take really good care of themselves to then take really good care of their staff to really pay forward, just being a safe space for people. Thinking about the trauma-informed care work, we all know those trusting relationships are so important, and just allowing your students to vent those fears and those worries and being honest about, we're in the unknown together, but we are together, and making sure people, don't become disconnected in a time where we're not getting to have the natural. We're all wired to connect, but we're not getting the connections in the way that we typically would, right? So reaching out to people, checking in, and just having open, honest dialogue, because nobody at this point has 100% answers of what tomorrow is going to look like in school settings.
Yes. Thanks for that. I'm happy to say we've got 91 people on this morning, listening and thinking and throwing in questions. So this is great. I'm happy about this. One characteristic of these COVID times that different students, different adults struggle with is the absolute daily requirement that we be flexible. And I know some students particularly have difficulty with that in that they thrive in routine. Any advice to parents or any advice to students, teachers, counselors on that? The idea of kind of embracing the need to be flexible and learning how to do it. Any thoughts?
Definitely. Change is hard. And if you're someone who really needs that structure, and so many people do, and it's really hard to have the unknown, and it's terrifying for people. So I would say look for things that you do have control over. Are there certain rituals or things at home, even bedtime routines or the wake up routines or any parts of structure that you can keep that you actually have the controls for, and really keeping that, and then having those open dialogues and conversations about the things that we don't have the control over, but we're still here and we're still supportive and we're still available. So I think looking for the norms that you can find, even if it's the smallest thing in your day, even if it's the waking up at the exact same time every day and getting ready every day, just finding what you can have as some kind of consistent routine is so important.
Thanks. Thank you so much for that. We don't have any other questions at this time, and so I don't know if you had any other points that you wanted to cover, maybe forgot, or maybe we digress to another one, or we can wrap it up either way. So is there anything else you'd like to address? And if not, we'll end it. What do you think?
I would definitely just reiterate, we're here for you. So when in doubt, if you're not sure which one of us to reach out to, or you think it would be good to have us both, just tag us both into an email. We'll figure out on our end who's best to respond and when it's best to have us both collaborate on that. But that would be the main thing I would want to leave with, is just that knowing that we exist, what our roles are, and that we hope we're bringing some expertise to the table for the phenomenal work that you guys are already doing every single day. Denisha, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just that, we understand that there has been a gap at the TDOE in terms of supports for school counselors. And, we want to make sure that you have that support from us. And we really do want to hear from you in terms of what you want to see from the state in terms of providing support to you, and not just in trainings, but in advocacy as well. We do kind of have that closer conduit to, the government. So we want to make sure that we are is providing that advocacy for you as well. But as a former school counselor, I do understand, caseloads and just, all the different things that we are tasked to do, and some of those, fair share things, as we like to call it, that we have to do as well in the school that kind of can also take our time. We just really want to ensure that we are a voice for you. And so, one of the things that, we want to do within these roundtables is to hear from you and take that back to the people that we know who are, leaders in, CCTE and also leaders in whole childhood, so that they can hear what it is that you need from us.
Your constant message is one of support and reaching out. So that is really, really good to hear. I want to offer the collaborative support of your work in whatever role we might play as well. Because one of you said a moment ago, we're in this thing together, and so that's how we're going to get through it. So thanks so much to Ms. Denisha Ward and Ms. Christy Steele for a great session today. You'll see information on the screen for the following things. We've set up a school counselors collaborative discussion board where you can continue conversations with each other. You'll also find information about how to view this presentation at a later date, or how to share this with someone else who maybe couldn't view it today.